Hello and welcome to this video where we're now going to take a look at using lights and rendering inside ZBrush. So lights and rendering is another subject that can be quite in-depth, so we're not going to go too much in-depth with it, but we are going to just look at some of the basic parameters of what we can do. So in order to deal with the lighting, what we're first going to do is open this divider, and I'm going to close the materials tab. And then from here, I'm going to go up here where it says lighting, and I'm just going to dock this to the left hand side. So by default, you can see that we have the lights extended and we have one light active. Now it's important to know that whenever we are dealing with lights inside ZBrush, that is always respective to the document. So what I mean by that is if I move this around and I move this over here, this light is always going to remain in the same position no matter how I turn this. Now this is different as opposed to if you're used to working in a 3D package where you place a light and it has a physical area out in space. So say for instance if you was using 3ds Max or Maya, you may place a light here, and then when you rotate your objects, this side of the model will always be illuminated while this side becomes darker. Now this is not the case in ZBrush. That light is always respective of the position of the document, so it's always best to find an angle that you would like to render, and once you have done that, then start to tweak these lights. So let's go ahead and look at some of these basic light settings. So if we look here, we have this little ball or this sphere, and it has this dot, and this dot represents where the light is. So as we move this about, you can see that that light is moving around. Okay. So let's choose something, let's see, about here. Or we can go with, let's see. Yeah, something maybe that might look good. Now we can go ahead and we can increase the intensity. So if we want this light to be a little stronger, we can do that too. We have the color, so we can change the color here. So let's go ahead and choose maybe, we're going to choose something maybe along these lines, maybe bluish. And the reason we're going to do that is I'm just going to show you how these lights work. So we have this sort of blue from this blue color from this direction, and then what we can do is we can go ahead and enable a new light. So we can click that, and once that has activated, there we go. We can see that we now have this red light. So this red light is corresponding because I have a red color here. And so you can see we have a blue and a red, and they are contrasting colors. Now in the bottom here, we have the light type, and here we can change the type of light it is. So we're just going to keep to sun for now, as this is the easiest light to work with. But as you move forward in understanding how ZBrush works, you can go ahead and choose point, spotlight, glow, and so on and so forth. So that's the basics of the lighting. We can go ahead and add more lights if we want and play around with these parameters. Now let's look at how we can render. So let's just close this over to one side, and let's just rotate this around just a little bit. So in order to render, we can go up to where it says render. Okay, and we have these different options. So we have preview, which is what we are in now. We have flat, and best. So let's go ahead and choose best, and what this is going to do is we're going to go ahead and produce the best possible render that it believes it can produce. So let's go ahead and choose render. You can see it's set to best. Now if we go back over here and look under the lights, okay, there are some options that we can look at. So look at the shadows here. So let's select this first light, and we can go ahead and we can increase, let's see, we want to increase the light length. This is going to increase the quality of the shadows, and we can do this for both of these. And we also have this aperture, and what this basically does is this deals with the softening of the shadows. Now because this is so flat, this is most likely due to this material. But we can go ahead and render this again and see what happens, see what difference we get before we change the material type. So let's go ahead, choose render. Let's go back to preview. Let's choose best. So you can see that it's producing its best. If we go ahead and change this material to, let's see, something along these lines. Let's actually go with something like this. Okay, and then we go to render. And what actually happens if I go into render here, you can see that it's still on best. Okay, now the reason for this is that so long as we are in the same view, so long as we were like this, then every time we change a parameter within the light, then it's going to automatically go ahead and update and render that. So let me just give you a quick example before this video stops. So let's go ahead and choose best. Okay, now if I go ahead and let's say I take this color and I change this just so slightly like this, it's going to go ahead and re-render that for me. Now, if I don't want that to happen, what I have to do is I actually have to move this around just a little bit. Then if I go ahead and change this, so it just changes the difficulty, see it's not actually rendering. So we'd have to then go back up and choose render and go up and choose best. So that's the basics of the lighting and rendering. The next thing we're going to look at is how we can export an image out of ZBrush. So I'd like to thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.